UJFM Insights, 12 to 3 p.m.
It's Saeger bringing us to 35 after 12 p.m. You're still tuned into UJFM 95.4. And right now you're listening to Insights. It is the Insight Girlies, Uphumelele Waga Zulu and Letotlo Manake on the news desk. We're ushering you all the way through to the hour of 3 p.m. I did promise you an interesting interview. And I wonder if you knew that South Africa is rich in biodiversity that can be exploited. This is to boost food safety and security. When it comes to food safety and agri-food systems, the key message is that food safety forms an integral part of the entire food value chain from farm to fork, thus requiring a holistic approach that considers the interconnections between food production and processing, distribution, as well as consumption. So there's a lot that goes into place. And this afternoon we are speaking to Professor Saeger, who is a distinguished professor, visiting professor in the Department of Biotechnology and Food Food Technology as well. Professor, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me here.
I think first of all, I think the listener needs to know, and we need to congratulate you for being awarded a grant by the European Commission to conduct the Uprise project. Now, I want you to tell us briefly how you got involved with the University of Johannesburg as a distinguished visiting professor.
Yes, I already have connections with UJ for several years, more specifically, I think more than 10 years when I met Professor Njobe from the Faculty of Sciences during some conferences. And that after that, we had more and more connections, and also we supervised joint master students and joint PhD students during those several years. Also very important to tell you is that Professor Njobe and UJ are partner in a capacity building project on food safety, which is called MyTalk South. And UJ was one of the founding members as well of this capacity building project.
Okay, Professor Sarah, while you're here, while UJ has you, I think it's important for UJ students to know about food safety. What food safety issues does Africa have?
Yes, first of all, as you also said, food safety is an integral part of food security. So food security is about having enough food, which is already a big challenge in the whole world. But besides that, we should be sure that we are not just giving food to people, but we need to give them safe food, because there are a lot of food safety issues. And in Africa, for instance, one of the biggest issues is on mycotoxins, which relates to fungi that grow on crops and can produce those very toxic compounds. Now, the problem is that we don't see them. So some of the food safety issues are not visible, and that makes it difficult for people to know how to deal with it, because you don't see it, but you're exposed to it, and they become what we can call slow poisons. So at the end, you develop, for instance, cancer related to that.
Professor Saeger, I hear you speaking of mycotoxins, and I know they've been a focus of research for more than 30 years. So what are they really, and why are you so interested in conducting research on mycotoxins?
Yes, mycotoxins are produced by fungi, so by molds that are growing on many different crops. Most of them are staple crops, like maize, which is a very important staple food here in South Africa as well. Besides, you can find them on nuts, spices, other cereals, so all plant-based foods. Also in milk, because if we feed our cows some mycotoxin-containing feed, then it comes in the milk, and so at that time we can also be exposed through milk. So there are many of the foods that we daily consume that contain mycotoxins.
We are speaking to Professor Sarah Saeger, who is a distinguished visiting professor in the Department of Biotechnology and Food Technology. We're talking about the safety of food and why really it is important to Professor that she is doing in research about the mycotoxins that are affecting some of the countries in Africa. It's made for me, bringing us to exactly 45 after 12 p.m. You're still tuned into the frequency 95.4. What you're listening to is Insights with the Inside Girlies. It's Supumelele Wagazulu and Letotlo Manake on the news desk. So now we're talking everything food safety in Africa, and we are in conversation with Professor Sarah Saeger, who is a distinguished visiting professor at the Department of Food Technology and Biotechnology. Now, Professor, I do know that you were awarded a grant by the European Commission. This is to conduct the Uprising Project. Now, what I want to know is, what is the Uprise Project and how do you see the role of Uprise improving food security or African food security systems in particular?
Yes, Uprise is a partnership between the European Commission and the African Union. So it means that we collaborate between different European countries and African countries. Besides South Africa, we also have Kenya, Nigeria, Benin and Côte d'Ivoire in this project. So it's really a multi-country project. So what we are doing, we are working on different aspects, because food safety, you need to tackle it in a holistic way. It means we are not only working with scientists, but also with different stakeholders like food safety authorities in Africa, like consumer organizations, farmer organizations, and last but not least, very important, we work with small businesses. So because one of the biggest issues is that in many African countries, there is a huge informal market which really is not following any regulations on food safety. And that's on that part we want to try to make the difference. So to work directly with the businesses.
Professor Sarah, how can our UJFM listeners make that difference? Our listeners are students, staff, young adults who work. How can they make the difference with food safety?
Yes, I think, first of all, as I said, it's a multidisciplinary research. So we not only need scientists working in agriculture or in food science. We also need socioeconomic scientists because those ones are very important to bring the changes which are provided in the labs to the real world. So one of the things is, when you're a student and you're in different fields, please try to collaborate with the different fields. And also for food safety, it's very complex. So we need many types of students. If I can give some practical advice to the students for their own food safety, first of all, I would say, as a consumer, it should not be really your business. I mean, it should be the business of the government. So as students, please ask the government, like, look, what I have on my plate, it should be safe. Because, as I said, many of those problems are invisible, so you cannot do much yourself.
I think a quick one, Professor, before I do let you go. How is the Uprise project now going forward? How is it going to help tackle this food security problem that African countries are suffering from? And I know you did make bases on the mycotoxins.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for the mycotoxins, we are now trying to find real solutions, so to reduce their content in the food. And one of the major aspects we are studying is how fermentation of food, so fermented food products can indeed reduce the mycotoxin content. And for instance, in South Africa, we are studying a very popular traditional fermentation process, which is a fermented sorghum beer, which is called umqombothi. And so we are now studying this process to see how mycotoxins are reduced during the processing of umqombothi. Another important part of the study is that we are also dealing with climate change, and climate change can influence the presence of the fungi and the mycotoxins in our food. So for that, we are now working on predicting the mycotoxin content by having also weather and climate data.
A very big thank you to Professor Sarah Saeger, who is a distinguished visiting professor. This is in the Department of Biotechnology and Food Technology at the University of Johannesburg. I think it was quite an insightful one to have an understanding of some of the mycotoxins or toxins that come with food, and also just food security overall in the African country. There's some amazing music coming through your way. We do have 10 out of 10 by Eugenia, the journalist, and Gino Brown with Bagone.
UJFM Insights. 12 to 3 p.m.